Everybody always talks about new year, new you. We talk about exercise goals and fitness goals and all of these different plans and things we have for the new year, but we often forget to kind of reevaluate where we're at as homeschooling parents, where we're at with our families like homeschooling journey, how things are going, what we like, what we don't like, changes we need to make. There's a lot of things that need evaluation even in your homeschool. And look, y'all, I am absolutely guilty of this too, which is why I'm going to share with you guys today 14 tips, hacks, if you will, things that I think you should consider, think about, things that I like to evaluate for where things are at in our homeschool if I need to make changes so that I'm happy, my kids are happy, and things are working for us. And these are honestly good things to evaluate whether you are brand new to homeschooling or you are a varsity homeschool mom and you've been doing this for a really long time. This is good like evaluation questions for everybody across the board. But don't forget, if you are new or just feeling like burnt out, you need to know where to start, or you really need to reevaluate kind of everything and start from the ground up. Don't forget that I do have a 6-week masterclass, The Art of Home Education. There are over 40 videos, a workbook, all kinds of things to help literally guide you and walk you through that journey of either starting from the ground up or reevaluating from the ground up, whatever you may need. Be sure to check that out down below in the description box. And I do have a little discount code down there for you if you are one of my YouTube friends. Okay, let's get into the 14 tips. Tip number 1 is that wherever possible in your homeschool, wherever you can kind of look from a 30,000 foot view and evaluate wherever possible, let your kids take the lead and explore topics that they are interested in. If we're really being honest with ourselves, we can say that when you are not interested in something, it is very hard to learn that topic for a lot of people. Not only is it hard to learn it, but it's hard for it to actually stick and stay around. You are far more likely to retain information on topics that you are passionate about, that you are interested in. Ask me how I know. As somebody who failed photography in high school, struggled with math in elementary school and middle school, struggled to learn to read. Those 3 things are now like 3 of my very favorite things later when I actually had an interest in them. So be sure to pay attention to what your kids are interested in and see if you can let that lead what they're learning. Number 2, it's the middle of the year. And look, I feel like you guys are going to come at me with pitchforks for this one. But don't be afraid to ditch a curriculum that isn't working. Guys, I know we don't want to waste money. I'm not advocating for you to waste money. But what I am saying is that if you are miserable with the curriculum, if your kids are miserable with the curriculum, you are not getting your money out of it anyways. And if there's any way possible, check resale stores, check secondhand homeschooling shops, online Facebook groups. There's so many different options out there that if what you're doing right now isn't working, don't feel like you must complete it. You must keep doing it. You must stay in the drudgery and the monotony if you're not loving it, if it's not working for you. Number 3, have fun. School doesn't have to be boring, you guys. It really, really doesn't. And so many of you know that. You've been doing this long enough that you know that, but sometimes we forget. I'm guilty of it, where I get into, again, kind of the monotony of day to day and things start to get boring and I forget that I can make changes. And that brings me to today's video sponsor, which I've shared with you guys before, and that is Night Zookeeper. I shared with you guys about them a few months ago when I finally got to try them. I'd been kind of seeing them all over the place, and I was very excited when they reached out. If you're looking to make a change in the language arts department, especially, you definitely need to look into the Night Zookeeper, or even if you're just looking to add in something, a little bit of a supplemental type curriculum into what you're already doing, I really think that you and your kids will love the Night Zookeeper program. I love that because it's kind of like it almost feels like a game focused, that sort of gamification aspect, if you will, that really motivates kids to complete the reading and the writing tasks that they're assigned. Feels more like they're playing a game than that they're doing a curriculum or a worksheet or something that's meant to be, quote unquote educational. I really love the feedback that they get from the tutors. That is one of the best parts. I spoke about this the last time I shared about Night Zookeeper, that I love how gentle the correction is from the tutors. It feels like I wish somebody would follow me around all the time and correct me in those kind of like kind, gentle ways that remind your child if they've forgotten something, if they've done something incorrectly, but not in a way that feels like harsh and will make them kind of like curl up and be like, never mind, I don't want to do this. I feel like I'm getting yelled at when I get it wrong. It's not like that at all. It is a complete language arts curriculum. They cover spelling, reading, grammar. There's vocabulary building and writing, which is one of the hardest things to teach with kids is writing. I think most homeschool moms would tell you that writing can be one of the hardest things to teach. If you guys are interested in trying The Night Zookeeper, I will have a link down below in the description box. You can try it for free for 7 days and get 50% off an annual membership if y'all use my link down below. I really think you're going to love it. I do not think you'll be disappointed, and I think your kids will agree with me. The next tip is that a curriculum that works for one of your children may not work for all of your children. Everybody learns a little bit differently. Everybody has different learning styles. That's one of the things we talk about in my course is understanding your teaching style, but also understanding your child's learning style. Again, as a kid who really struggled in school, this message is just, I feel so compelled to share and talk about it because I grew up believing that I was dumb because I didn't fit into the educational model that the public school system had. And even now as an adult, as I've been able to learn new skills, test myself, as I've been able to prove to myself that I am actually capable of learning all kinds of things, essentially anything I really want to know, I'm capable of learning. I kind of had to teach myself that because in that way, the school system failed me. And so it's something that I really believe is so important for us as homeschooling parents to make sure that we are not imposing that on our kids. And so that means that how your son may learn will be likely totally different than how your daughter or your other son will learn. So being aware of that, cognizant of it, and willing to make changes and not just say, well, I bought this curriculum, so everyone has to use it. And again, I completely understand budget restrictions when it comes to curriculum and buying curriculum. But there are so many amazing ways to get curriculum that works for your child and to be able to be flexible and even make something you already have work with a different learning style. I'm going to free you from something right now. One of the number one things I hear from other homeschool moms is that they're so afraid that they're not going to teach their kids everything they need to learn. No one, not even your local public school, your local private school, no one covers it all. It's impossible. It is impossible. I want you just to let go of the notion that you are going to be able to cover it all with your kids. Giving them samples of each little thing that they need to know, giving them samples of subjects, again, finding their interest and letting them lean into it, making sure that they have basics in every subject area, particularly if they're a child that intends to go on to college. You obviously want those things, but don't get so hung up in thinking that you just have to cover it all and there's so much out there to learn. There is, but they have their whole lives to do it. So do you. If there's something that you feel inadequate to even help with, maybe not even teach, but help with, it's not too late. You can still learn it too. I could say so much more about that. I just want to remind you that no one covers it all and you don't have to either. Next, I want to tell you something else. If you're halfway through the school year, maybe this is your first year homeschooling, maybe it's your 10th, and your child, you're recognizing that there are perhaps some learning difficulties, maybe a learning disability, something that you feel unequipped to help or correct or work around in some other way, it's okay to get help. We did this year with one of our kids. It's okay. We have a child that goes 3 days a week to a school that will help that child learn in the way that they need to learn. It is hard. I get it. It's hard to admit that you can't do something as you feel like maybe it makes you feel like a failure. I'm not even going to put that on you. I'll just tell you that that's how it made me feel initially in years past. But I have sought out tutoring for my kids. I've sent my kids to part-time programs. We've done all kinds of things so that the education works for each of our kids. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. If you're at that point, if you feel like you're hitting a roadblock, if you know something needs to change, let this video be hopefully the little fire under your booty to make the phone call. Do the research, start seeing what you can figure out. At the end of the day, you want your child to be as successful as they can be and to have the best education for them, even if it means some outside help that isn't you. This kind of goes with what I said before, but don't get bogged down with what the public schools are doing. It's really important to remember that homeschool is homeschool, not school at home. I think a lot of parents got a crash course in this when the Rona hit and people's kids got sent home, and they kind of had to like help them with virtual school on a computer, but they weren't really the ones teaching or choosing anything. They were just help. School at home is very different than homeschool. I did a video about it. Some people got heated about it. That was like 3 years ago. The truth is still the same today, 3 years later, that you don't need to replicate a public school environment in your home. You don't need to do everything that the public schools are doing in order for your child to get a well-rounded education. Number 9, our society has gotten into this weird place where we feel like older kids should have no responsibilities when it comes to their younger siblings. I think I'll leave names out of it, but I think that there's some families that perhaps had TV shows and stuff that people got a glimpse of something that they didn't like. It felt a little icky to them to feel like older kids were somehow responsible for or raising their younger siblings. While I agree that that's not the road we're trying to go down, it's also perfectly acceptable to have time slots in your day where your older children help your younger children with school subjects. Maybe they sit and read to them or listen to them read. It's good for the older child. It's helping them. When you teach someone something, it helps you learn it. Hello, homeschool moms who were relearning some things that we didn't really retain well in our previous school years. You know that by teaching, it helps you learn. And the same thing happens for your children. So it's totally okay to have high schoolers who might have a little break in their day be helping with preschoolers, letter recognition, or, an early reader. Maybe you are fed up to here with listening to the of the struggling reader. Listen, I was a struggling reader, so I can make fun of myself for that, all right? And I'm sure it was very frustrating for my mother, because it just does. It gets very frustrating. Maybe pass that off a little bit. Have one of your older kids help out in that area. It both frees you up to work one-on-one with other kids, but it's also really good for both of them, the older child and the younger child. We're about to get controversial in the homeschool world with the next one, which is that you don't need an expensive preschool curriculum. If you have 3, 4, 5, even 6-year-old, depending on kind of where they're at, their interest level in school, you don't need a big fancy preschool curriculum. Now, have I purchased preschool curriculums over the years? Do I love some of them? Yes, I do. But do I know that they are not necessary? Have I gone years without using them for certain kids? Absolutely. You don't have to have curriculum to teach preschool concepts. Homeschooling preschool can be really fun if you're into that. It's very Pinteresty. There's all kinds of like crafts and it feels like playing school, like when you were a little kid, which is why I think you see so much of it in the online homeschooling space. So many, like I said, go to Pinterest, man. It's going to be very heavy on the preschool, kindergarten. And the truth is that the number of people homeschooling dwindles the farther away you get from that really early education that feels very fun and kind of like playing teacher. When it starts to get harder, as some people perceive, or they feel out of their depth a little bit, that's when people will often walk away. But what I will say is that as fun as all that is, if you're into it, do it. Knock yourself out. Decorate your house like a classroom. Do whatever you want to do. But I just want you to know that if you're kind of not into that and you kind of feel like, well, I don't really want to have a preschool room at my house, I just want to live and learn, that's okay. And your kids can and will learn without all the curriculum stuff if that's the path you choose to take. The next one, which absolutely goes with that, don't feel pressured to push academics at all in the preschool years. Again, programs like teaching babies to read, what was that called? I remember I had a friend who did that, who taught her babies to read. There's so much pressure to feel like our kids need to be reading by 3. You can relax, especially if you're planning on homeschooling long term. We talk a lot about this in my homeschooling course, a lot about this. It's okay to wait. It's okay to go slow. It's okay to not put that pressure on yourself to feel like you have to be doing a significant amount of school, or really just what most would consider to be like academic things in preschool. You don't have to. Next tip, maybe you're getting a little bit bored with your read alouds. I want to encourage you to choose read alouds that are above your child's reading level. Again, it can be very tempting to want to read a book to your child that maybe is at their level, because maybe you're thinking like, oh, they'll read over my shoulder and it'll be, that's good, that's fine. But also don't forget the value in reading books that are above their reading level. By reading to them from books that are above their reading level, you are helping them to increase their listening comprehension skills. So maybe they can't read it themselves yet, but they can hear it and begin to understand it and comprehend it a lot faster than if you were just waiting for them to get to the point where that was their reading level. So don't be afraid to choose read alouds that are above their personal reading level. Number 13, which if you're feeling burnout halfway through the year, this may be one of your big culprits, which is, have you left margin in your schedule? Have you left margin in your life? It is so tempting to fill up every moment of our day, or to think that, oh, I've got time for that. I've got time for that. And maybe you really don't. Because if you do that, sure, you technically have time for it, but then you have no margin. And as I have said before, margin is where the magic happens. And again, I say this to you as somebody who is still working on this in my own life. I'm not good at margin. I do tend to fill up every moment, and it's not good for me. It's not good for me. And I'm making changes this year, and I'm already noticing a difference. So if you haven't left margin in your homeschool schedule, go through, look at what you're doing, see what you can cut, see what you can cut back on. Are there activities or groups or things that you're just like, this is too much? We need to tailor it back. Johnny only needs to do one activity outside of school, not 3. See what you can cut back if you're starting to feel that squeeze of no margin. And the last, number 14, is that I don't care if you have been homeschooling for 10, 11 years like I have, or if you are brand new, whatever season of homeschooling you're in, every single homeschool mom at some point or another, and likely at some point or another every single school year, feels like quitting, feels like giving up, feels like saying, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. I would just encourage you that if you have put in the work at the beginning, this is something that we begin the course with, is determining your why for your family, writing a mission vision statement for your family, for your homeschool. That is so important to have, to fall back on when you hit that wall, when you are like, I can't do this anymore, I'm just done. Grab that, look at your reasons why. Remind yourself why you chose this. Evaluate your whys, see if those things are still true, and if they are, then let yourself feel your big feelings. Let yourself feel your sadness, your frustration, your maybe disappointment. Just let it wash over you. And then go to sleep, get a good night's sleep, wake up, have a really good breakfast, start the day anew. Just know that every homeschooling mom, myself included, and every homeschooling mom I have ever known, feels like quitting at some point or another, and likely every single school year. So if you can reevaluate, make sure you're still hitting those boxes for the whys, go back through this list, see what changes you can make. Tomorrow's a new day, wake up fresh, give it another try. 95% of the time, I'd say that feeling will pass and you will be totally fine, but it's going to come, expect it to come. You know that it's going to be there. So whether it's likely to just pass, like some of these big feelings we have sometimes, they come and they go, or if it's something that you need to address some things, make some changes, and then it will pass. But just know it's normal. It happens to all of us. You're not weird. You're not a bad mom. You're not a bad homeschooling mom. It happens to every single one of us, myself included. Hopefully you found some tips in this video helpful, things you can apply to your family, to your homeschool year, maybe some changes that you need to make this sort of midway through the year. Like I said, if you really want to get down into the weeds of everything that you're doing, making sure that you're using curriculums that are good for you, for your kids, teaching styles, schedules, routines, then definitely check out my homeschooling course down below in the description box, as I truly believe it will help you in all of those areas. And don't forget to check out Night Zookeeper as well. That's it for me today, guys. I hope y'all are having a wonderful day, and I will see you again very soon.